The Texas sun bathed the ranch in golden light, the air warm and still. The house stood weathered, its porch strewn with clay pots and half-carved sculptures, wind chimes clinking softly. Chuck stood at the door, gazing at the battered FedEx package, its angel wing stamp a faded emblem of his survival. His knock was firm but hesitant, echoing the resolve that had kept him alive on the island. The door creaked open, revealing Bettina, sleeveless top, jeans, a smudge of paint on her knuckles. Her smile was curious, edged with caution. "Hi," Chuck said, shifting his weight. "I think we met on the road back there." Bettina leaned against the doorframe, squinting. "Oh? Yeah. Did you get lost?" He flashed a small smile, heart tripping. "No. I think I found what I was looking for." She raised an eyebrow, half amused. "Which was?" Chuck met her gaze, bold but nervous. "You. Okay?" Her soft laugh broke the tension, and he chuckled too, rubbing his neck, caught by his own nerve. He nodded toward his Jeep in the dusty drive, its hood gleaming under the clear sky. "I brought your package back." He pointed to it, still sitting where he'd left it with the note. "Figured it's been on a longer trip than most." Bettina's eyes sparked, recognizing the angel wing stamp. She stepped onto the porch, shoes scuffing, and picked up the package, fingers grazing its worn edges. "That old thing? You're right. It's seen some miles." She grinned, tilting her head. "Come in. You've earned a coffee for playing delivery guy." Inside, the kitchen smelled of coffee and cedar, walls lined with sketches of wings, a pottery wheel tucked in a corner. They sat at a cluttered table, mugs steaming, sunlight slanting through a window. Chuck's eyes flicked to a photo of Bettina smiling with a little girl and someone he thought could have been her ex-husband, a silent scar of her past. The air felt fragile, like they were both testing the ground. "What's life like out here?" he asked, glancing at the endless fields beyond. Bettina sipped her coffee, shrugging. "Oh, pretty quiet, at least now." "Why's that?" he pressed gently. Her smile faded, eyes sharpening. "Had a partner who liked building roads and chasing skirts halfway across the world. Got tired of being the one left behind. So I sent him packing." She leaned forward, voice firm. "I learned through life, if someone hits you, you hit them back twice as hard." Chuck raised an eyebrow, teasing. "Isn't that a little unfair?" "No," she shot back, eyes glinting. "It tells them not to mess with you again." He nodded, gaze drifting to the package, memories of crashing waves flickering through his mind. "Sometimes you have to hit life back twice as hard." Bettina softened, meeting his eyes. "Yeah, I get that." Chuck looked down, then back up, screwing up his nose slightly, a bitter memory surfacing. "Yeah, I lost a lot. More than I hoped for," he said, soft, almost to himself. Bettina tilted her head, puzzled. "Meaning?" He half smiled, eyes distant. "I was stranded for a while, more than figuratively." Her eyes widened, concern flickering. "Oh, God!" Chuck chuckled, scratching his neck. "Yeah, it was pretty shit. Hope you don't mind me cursing." Bettina laughed, leaning back in her chair. "Not at all. I do it all the damn time." A quiet settled, their words hanging like dust motes in the sunlight. Chuck sighed, a soft ugh, rubbing his hands together. "I'd tell you more, but I feel like I'm intruding." "No, not at all," she said quickly, her voice warm. He stood, smoothing his shirt. "Walk me to my car?" She nodded, rising from the table. They stepped onto the porch, the sun still bright, but the horizon had shifted. Dark clouds churned in the distance, sudden and heavy. Chuck's Jeep sat by the mailbox, its angel wing stencil catching the fading light. A low rumble of thunder stirred the air. "Well, I picked a lousy time," Chuck said, glancing up, wry. Bettina shook her head, her nose creasing, eyes glistening like she might cry. "Look, why don't you stay for a bit until it passes?" Her voice caught, raw. "I don't normally do this." He turned, puzzled, the wind tugging at his hair. "Are you sure?" "Yes. Come in," she said, holding the door as the first drop speckled the porch. They stepped back inside, the kitchen a haven against the storm's growl. The rain came harder now, drumming the tin roof, and in the soft lamplight, the FedEx package sat on a side table, its flaps parted, contents unseen, a quiet sign she'd faced it and let it go. They talked, words spilling easier as the storm raged. Chuck's island years hovered unspoken, Bettina's scars from betrayal lingering in her sharp edges. The hours blurred, drawing them closer, until they stood together, her hands on the back of his neck, their foreheads and noses touching, breaths mingling in a fragile moment of trust. "Did it get easier?" Chuck whispered, his voice barely stirring the air. "What?" Bettina's eyes searched his, soft but guarded. "Your life." Her lips curved into a sad smile. "No, it didn't." He exhaled, a low hum of understanding. "Mine didn't either." Bettina pulled back slightly, her gaze distant. "By the time I was in high school, my parents were at each other's throats. The arguing, it got so I could barely stand being home. It started when Dad got a promotion, a new job in a new town. Not bad news, just meant we had to move, uproot everything." She paused, her voice steady but heavy. "Good times don't stick like the bad ones. Dad had this habit. Couldn't sleep, so he'd slip out of bed, grab his cigarettes, and park in his armchair in front of the TV, smoking. Not the worst thing, unless you nod off with a lit cigarette." Chuck's eyes softened, sensing the weight. She went on, her words quieter. "I woke up to the smoke alarm. Damn thing was so old it barely worked, and this awful smell. Smoke everywhere, fire crawling over the sofa, the carpet, his armchair. I wanted to scream, but just couldn't. Got out of bed, threw on slippers, thinking, if I die, at least my feet'll be warm." She gave a half laugh, bitter. "Dad was coughing, trying to put it out. I helped him grab my little sister, found Mom panicking, yelling about what happened. We stood in the yard in our pajamas waiting for the fire department. Half an hour, freezing, watching our living room burn. Had to crash in a hotel while the smoke cleared. Mom was livid when Dad admitted he'd fallen asleep with the cigarette." Her nose creased again, eyes glinting but holding back tears. "At some point I realized that's the real world." She breathed out, steadier. "Later, at private school, they had this no-dating rule. I drove a guy to school sometimes, and he spread a rumor we were making out on the way. Next thing, I'm in the office, some administrator swearing at me like I'm the problem. These people were supposed to be responsible. You know?" Chuck closed his eyes, pressing his nose gently to her cheek. "Geez," he murmured, his voice a soft anchor. Bettina pulled back slightly, her eyes searching his, a mix of curiosity and warmth. "You really came all this way to return my lost package with that note?" Chuck nodded, his gaze steady. "Yes, I did." Her lips curved into a soft smile, eyes glistening. "I'm glad you did." The rain drummed harder now, a steady roar against the roof. The open package sat silently, its mystery untouched, as if it knew their stories mattered more. They stood there, her hands still on his neck, his breath warm against her skin, two castaways finding shelter in each other.